Welcome in everyone to a special Dynasty episode of Craze's Corner. We're going to be talking about some guys we are trying to buy in all of our Dynasty football leagues. We think they're undervalued. You can get them at a great price. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. But let's get right into some news. The biggest news of the week, Sean Payton has retired. That he will be at least stepping away from football for this season. And he has left the Saints with a huge mess. They're $72 million over the cap. They have four players accounting for 47% of the cap space in 2022, which is an insanely high percentage. They are going to be without their starting quarterback, left tackle, free safety, linebacker, wide receiver, and a starting DB because their contracts have all expired and they might not have the cap to bring them back. They're obviously paying Taysom Hill $40 to $95 million. And their wide receiver one has not played football in the past year. So the Saints are in a great position. Love that for all Saints fans. And then we have the Tom Brady maybe retiring. He's going to take some time. He's obviously going to talk it over with his family, and we think that's going to be his biggest deciding factor. I think he comes back one other year. I don't think he wants to go out like that, and I think his family is not going to be the one that stops him from going out the way he wants to. I think that the Bucs will make a push. They'll sign some one-year contracts, and I think that they will Brady to come back. And then Antonio Brown back in the news again. He's posting pictures on his Twitter of him in a Ravens jersey. Lamar Jackson saying he wants to play with him. Lamar Jackson, quoting the tweet, putting the little devil emoji. So, Lamar is obviously he's interested in the idea of playing with Antonio Brown. So will we see those two team up in Baltimore? Will we see Antonio Brown play next year? Let us know using the Media app. The Media app is a virtual press conferencing app that allows you to host your own virtual press conference. You can change your background. You can change the foreground, whether you want some microphones, whether you want a podium. There's a lot of different options. It's a great app. Definitely check it out. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. And now let's welcome in our guests. We have Zach from Ocean State and Will. Thanks for joining, guys. Let's get some takes. Antonio Brown, you think he's going to play with the Ravens next year?
Man, I hope not.
You hope not for his sake or for?
I don't know. I got a little Antonio Brown fatigue at this point, so maybe I'm not the right guy to ask. But I would rather see him. If he's gonna play anywhere, let's bring him to Miami. We need some help.
Got some Antonio Brown fatigue, but let's just bring him to my team. I would love to. That would all you would see on your feed throughout the entire season is Antonio Brown antics if he was on the Dolphins. Yep. I mean, maybe you guys go with the whole Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams stack when they leave Green Bay. There you go. I think that's a better opportunity there than Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, bring him in. I'll take him.
Yeah. Exactly. You can trade Tua, have Tua and Jordan Love run a two-quarterback system. But let's get into our Dynasty Trade 4 targets. I'm going to start us off with a free agent who's currently dealing with an ACL injury. I'm talking about Cowboys wide receiver Michael Gallup. He's an amazing wide receiver. He's probably, if he's not a wide receiver one on whatever team signs him this offseason, he's going to be a high-end wide receiver two. He is only 25 despite playing in the league for 4 years. He has the experience. He is a free agent, so we've seen, guys coming off ACL injuries before still get paid in free agency. Will we see it? I'm not so sure as he's not a huge name. I think he will probably sign a one-year deal somewhere. And even if he does re-sign in Dallas, I don't think Amari Cooper will be there. So he'll be the number 2 wide receiver in that offense. I think anywhere he goes, the lowest he'll be is a wide receiver 2. I think, Michael Gallup owners have been kind of underwhelmed with his performances in the past. They've been a little underwhelmed with his performance last season. Didn't really have an amazing season. But he's a guy that I love buying. I'd rather have him over a guy like Marquise Brown, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks, Juju Smith-Schuster, Adam Thielen. I'd also rather have him over Chase Claypool going forward. And possibly Mike Williams is kind of where I'm at with my Michael Gallup evaluations. So yeah, that for me, I think he's a great buy low candidate. What do you guys think about Michael Gallup? Are you nervous with the injury and then the impending free agency? Do you expect him to have a big impact wherever he lands?
Go on,
It's fitting I started off because we actually traded each other.
Yeah.
So in the Dynasty League, I traded him Christian Kirk, and I'm sorry, he traded me Christian Kirk and the this year's round 2 pick 12 on the rookie draft for Michael Gallup. My team was like stacked. Just a little little context here. That way you kind of know. But he was basically just kind of riding on my bench. But Michael Gallup's actually super talented, and he's still with us.
Barely hanging on.
Mask.
Yeah, I got to keep the mask up, Jeff. I'm trying not to catch the vid.
Come on. Yeah, we are not 6 feet apart in these windows.
No, we just got to get a nice, really big TV, and then we can be 6 feet apart in these windows. You know,
Right.
it's got to
I'll turn
invest
this
in
way
them.
to cough.
There
I won't
you
cough
go.
on you, Will.
Any thoughts on Michael Gallup while you're here, Jeff?
No, not until I know he's healthy and know where he lands.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think there is a lot of questions with where he's going to land, which I think why his value is lower. Because there's definitely some teams, it's any time you're doing trades before free agency, especially for guys who are in free agency, even if they're not, you're taking a chance that, they don't go out and sign a big player. He doesn't go to a team where, maybe it's not the best situation. But I think Gallup will be smart. He gets to make his own decision where he wants to go. I think there will be definitely some teams interested. So he's going to be one of my trade for targets. Will,
Cincy,
what do you have to say?
1-year deal to Cincy.
Really?
Interesting.
That's worst case scenario.
That's not going to be
for his value, I think.
He's not going to be the first wave free agent, right? Because of the injury. So he's going to be that bottom sale discount rack of part of free agency.
See,
Cincinnati gives him $2 million guaranteed. On the field with Chase as a chance to earn it, and with a good quarterback and a team on the rise with cap space. I mean, the Bengals
Higgins though.
That's what I was going to say. Is Higgins or Boyd going anywhere?
And
I think Boyd is.
I think
Boyd's a free
best case scenario for Michael Gallup. Tom Brady decides, I'm coming back another year. The Bucs are like, we need some wide receiver help. Chris Godwin just left. You get the pairing of Mike Evans and Michael Gallup in Tampa Bay. I think that'd be great. Extremely unlikely. I don't think it'll happen, but that would be best case scenario. Let's go around the circle. Zach, who is your first player you are buying low on in Dynasty right now?
Yep. This guy is the only 21-year-old that's on CBS's top 150 for Dynasty rankings right now, and that guy is Kyle Pitts, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. Only 2 games rather, with less than 5 targets. So obviously the volume's there. If Calvin Ridley goes elsewhere, he's fully locked in as the number 1 option there. And tight ends usually take some time to mature in the league. Usually it's pretty rare that rookie tight ends are as involved as much as he was. So I think with the dynasty aspect, with him being so young, people might be kind of a little upset with the 1 touchdown on the season. So you might be able to get him for a pretty decent value. And you'll pretty much be locked into a superstar ability player for sure. He's shown that, he's got the upside. Like I said, he's only 21, so he's like the youngest guy, basically, and one of the youngest guys in the league. So for Dynasty, you'll have him for however long he lasts, I guess. And plus, he might be getting a new quarterback, and maybe not next year, but maybe the year after. Who knows what that brings in? Who knows who they bring in this season? He could even be, he could be even better next year. So.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan will be the quarterback for this season. And if Tom Brady retires, Matt Ryan will be the best quarterback in that division by a wide margin too. So I think there's definitely worse positions, but I do like what you said. He is a super young and extremely talented tight end. My dynasty league is actually transitioning to 2 tight ends, so he's definitely a high value player. You can buy low on him in 1 tight end or flex anything, where you can put a couple tight ends in your league. You can't have too many. I definitely agree. The question marks at quarterback are something that is another reason why I think you can buy low on him. And as you said, the 1 touchdown kind of filling in that Julio Jones role where he doesn't score touchdowns in that offense. I think that will change as Matt Ryan kind of fades away in Atlanta. Jeff or Will, have anything they want to say on Kyle Pitts?
No, that's the only X factor is just if they're not only a quarterback, but if they go ahead, if Arthur Smith brings in somebody that is more of a throwing style as far as an offensive coordinator is concerned, Arthur Smith is the one that still kind of bothers me in that as the one being over that offense. But I do think you can get him low, and he's got a lot of upside. So
yeah, and good thing is I don't think Arthur Smith lasts as long as Kyle Pitts does. So you always have that to look forward to if you have Kyle Pitts on your team. Will, any thoughts?
I like young guys. I mean, I'll move picks for a young star or a potential young star. So I think he's that. And like you said, it's a very long view of okay, maybe next year doesn't great numbers, but at some point they're going to get the right coaching staff in there, and his numbers are going to go through the roof, and you're going to get 5 or 6 years of just dominating play.
Yeah, I think we'll see. Hopefully, we should see some Travis Kelce-esque performances out of him. But yeah, as Jeff said, the coaching staff taking him out on the goal line. They did that countless times when I was watching Atlanta play this year. They're like, "Oh, Atlanta's in the red zone. Oh, Kyle Pitts is on the bench. Great job."
I'll take my 6'7" tight end out.
Yeah.
It was the sneakiest 1,000-yard rookie record for the Falcons season, of all time. Just because he didn't score any touchdowns. That's what it is. It's like, especially in fantasy, if you don't score touchdowns, you get you get no love. But I mean, CBS had him ranked right below the equivalent of a early 22 first round pick in a rookie draft. Mm-hmm. So that was 23, and Kyle Pitts was 24 overall. So I just thought that was interesting because I think I'd rather have the known commodity in Kyle Pitts than the first round pick.
Yeah. Would you if you're top 3, would you trade the 103 for Kyle Pitts? Because he was the 4th overall pick last year, or maybe the 3rd, depending on the draft. And I think that's probably around where his value is. Yeah. 4th overall pick.
I think if you're a team that needs definite youth, injection into your team, if you were rocking Tom Brady and you had DeAndre Hopkins on your team, you got a bunch of older guys. You may want to trade that pick just to make sure that you don't miss on that 103. Because Kyle Pitts could be one. Who knows what his potential is, honestly. Whereas you could miss on the draft doesn't go your way. The first 2 guys go, and then you're sitting there at 3 and you panic, pick the wrong guy when you could have Kyle Pitts. So tough.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Will, let's talk about your first player. No biasy coming in here.
No, no. But I'm going to say if you can go get Justin Jefferson, now's the time to get him. You may still pay a price, but a year from now it'll be way more because you just get the sense that they're going to bring in an offense, if not the head coach, but they're going to bring in an offensive coordinator that's going to open that passing attack up. And if they do move from Thielen, he'll face a lot of double teams. But I just think that you're going to see over the next, kind of like with Pitts. I mean, he got another 7-8 years in the league of good numbers, if not longer. So, you look at the young wide receivers, and I think if you had to say who to me, the dynasty number 1 and 2 wide receivers are, it's Jefferson and Chase and then Cooper Kupp. But, we'll see how Kupp adjusts next year, once teams are all over him. And I don't think it'll be a fall off, but there's 3 dominant wide receivers for the next few years. And I think it's those 3. And if you can get them now, because there is instability, you don't know what the Vikings are doing. You don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Someone might feel like, I'll take a 1 at the end of the first round for Justin Jefferson. Because after this year, I don't think you'll be able to get him.
Yeah, I think for me, he's my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. So if you can get him for, I'd give up 2. 2 firsts and a second, depending on how much you need to go, depending on how much. But, I think he will be a hard player to trade for if he's on someone's team. But yeah, for me, if you can get him, go out.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'd give up a lot for him.
Yeah, especially in a 3 wide receiver league.
Yeah.
If you're in a dynasty 3 wide receiver, I think that I don't know if I would. If you're only starting 2 wide receivers,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would give away that much for Justin Jefferson, to be totally honest. Only because of the position. Where if it was like a Jonathan Taylor, I feel like Jonathan Taylor is more worth of that much of draft capital. Just because you can generally kind of work your way around wide receivers because there's so many of them. But I agree, he's an absolute stud, and he's definitely my 1A, 1B best wide receiver in the NFL, along with Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I forgot most leagues are. I don't know. Whenever I'm thinking of a dynasty, I think of my main dynasty league that I've been in for a bit: 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, super flex. So when I put crazy value on the wide receiver position or the tight end position, because now we're going to be running 2 tight ends, that is why. Jeff, any thoughts? Any arguments against Jefferson there?
Not really. The only thing is finding out again what they're going to do with Cousins. Do they upgrade at quarterback? Who are they really going to bring in as the head coach? And, I've seen certain fantasy teams get blown up because a quarterback exits and then a defensive-minded head coach comes in. You got Dalvin Cook still there. We're going to run the ball, or something where I'm sure Justin Jefferson's going to get targets, but you can see something may happen to where the targets could fall a little bit depending on who that coach is and who the offensive coordinator is. So there's just a lot of questions right now. That's the only thing that scares me about him. I kind of know what's going on. And like if you're looking at Jamar Chase and certain other guys like that, they've already got things in place. So those are the guys Burrow and him are going to be together for quite a long time. Zach Taylor has pretty much solidified his place there. So, over the next 4 years, I'm looking like that's a tandem. I'm going after Chase, maybe more than Justin Jefferson.
Do you actually think there's anyone in Dynasty that's crazy enough to trade Jamar Chase if you have him on your roster?
Yeah.
You'd have to give up so many picks, and it'd be insane.
Right.
Yeah, I think if they start off slow next year, you might be able to buy low on Jamar Chase because, people are, recency bias, and I think that's going to be a common theme. But, Jeff, do you have a player you want to talk about here?
Yeah. If you don't have him, I'd go get him. And I bought him high in an auction draft. It's the only thing that makes me wonder if I'm going to keep him or not, but that's Najee Harris. This is the only time I'm looking at it as where an exiting quarterback might actually enhance his value. Because Mike Tomlin has already said he would like a mobile quarterback. I'm looking at a mobile quarterback opening up stuff for Najee Harris, whether it's more dump-offs or just open it up to where, we can't sit there and put 8 in the box now because we don't know what, what's going to happen. They've got a good group of wide receivers. If they get a decent quarterback, not talking about Mason Rudolph, not talking about Dwayne Haskins, but if they go ahead and pick up a Pickett or even the kid from Liberty, I don't know. We'll
Jameis Winston.
No.
Oh, no. They already have him. They already have him on the team. His name's Dwayne Haskins.
Exactly.
But you see, that's what makes me think they bring in Jameis Winston.
How about A-Rod? If A-Rod goes there, it would be nice, man.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
any of that, I'm looking at Najee Harris. I'm thinking that, sooner or later, he could be a Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor type guy that's really killing it for you pretty much game in, game out. Targets are already there. Carries are already there. So, I'm just looking at it going, there's really nobody else you got to worry about coming in. So,
got anything you want to add to that, Will? I know he's one of the guys you were going to talk about too.
He's young enough. Like, if I could move Dalvin Cook for Najee Harris, I would. if I had McCaffrey and I could move McCaffrey for Najee Harris,
Exactly.
I would. I mean, if you got an owner that's like, oh, I want the established guy. I like young running backs. I like running backs in their rookie contract because I think they play better and they, and they're easy to flip out. So if I can get Najee Harris and maybe a second round pick for Cook, yeah, I'll move Cook for that.
I would move Cook for that as well. Depending on who has him, if you're kind of trying to win this year, I might be leaning Cook over Najee just for this season with the questions. I think there's more questions for Harris, but if you're playing long term, there's not too many guys I'd have over Najee. Anything you want to add, Zach? You feel different? You absolutely hate Najee Harris or anything?
Yeah, yeah, he's my Cordell Patterson. No, I love Najee Harris. I was like huge on him. I was very high on him coming into the season. And actually almost too high. Like I took him 5th overall in a couple drafts at a time where it kind of seemed like people were like, what? It's crazy. Like, and it add like real quick, I was like, oh, I think I made a mistake. But then he just got like so much production. CBS in that same list, I just kind of referenced it. I think it's a good dynasty list. They have him as the 4th overall guy in the top 150. It's crazy. He's 24 years old. He's actually older than Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Swift, guys that were drafted before, year before him. So
yeah, that is something to monitor, though. As you said, he's already 24. So
yep.
True.
You could have,
yeah. I mean, their peak season is like 24, 27, I think. So
yeah, in between that range.
You got time to trade a bunch of draft capital if you need to, and still be able to make up for it later on.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the running backs with my next pick. I'm going to be talking about Javonte Williams. Who finished as the RB17. He is only 21 years old. The last 8 weeks of the season, he was on the field for 50% of the time, all but once. Melvin Gordon is a free agent. Will they bring him back? Will they not bring him back? If they bring him back, I don't think it affects him too much. As I said, he was on the field majority of the time, the last 8 weeks, even with Melvin Gordon there. So I think no matter what, Javonte is going to eat. I'm excited for the offense next year, depending on what happens at quarterback. As I said, he's 21, and if there are peaks between that 24 to 27, he's definitely got some time. He finished the RB17, and he really didn't take off till mid-season. I'd rather have Javonte over Antonio Gibson, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, David Montgomery, and obviously Saquon Barkley. But so those are some guys that I would be taking. There's only a few guys I would take over Williams. Straight up, I'd rather have Cook still, just because there is some question marks, but I think those question marks are what allows you to buy a little lower on Javonte Williams. And come the end of next season, I'm not going to be surprised if he's a top 3 dynasty football running back. What do you guys think?
I like it.
I like it too, yeah.
Yep.
Love
Both he and Najee Harris on my keeper league, and I'm trying to decide what to do.
Well, that's tough.
Yeah. Is it based off where you drafted them? Is it by the round or?
It's actually in that league. It's about money, so it's an auction league. So you get to keep up to 5 guys if you can keep them to where it's under a $50 value. I actually bid $31 for Najee Harris. Got Javonte Williams for 10. So
nice.
So you can keep both.
I could, but there's some other guys I still want to keep too.
No, just those 2. You don't need the rest of the team. You just need those 2, especially if Melvin Gordon leaves.
If Melvin Gordon's gone, those are your keepers. I guess that's a good problem to have because you'll find out right in time. I guess if Melvin Gordon will be on the team, most likely. So
nice. If Melvin Gordon's gone, he. Williams jumps way up my board. And redraft and dynasty, I don't think it affects too much because they'd only bring Gordon back on a 1 or 2 year deal. But redraft for sure, Williams is going to be high on my board if Gordon's gone. But any counter arguments against Javonte Williams? Should we just move on because everyone's all good? All right, Zach, let's talk about your next player here. I love the pick. Love the pick.
Yeah. So it's funny because both of mine kind of go together for your team, but I'm gonna go with Christian McCaffrey. Shockingly, he's only 26, so it seems like he's been in the league a lot longer. He's most likely going to get a quarterback upgrade. Matt Rule, like we talked about, is on the hot seat. He knows he's playing for his job. They have to, score points, and maybe all that extra rest. Because like, didn't McCaffrey go down and he tried to come back, and then they were like, "Nah, he's just done." Maybe that rest is what he needed to get back to at least some of the form, because his ceiling is not just like superstar. It is the best fantasy option we've seen maybe since LaDainian Tomlinson. So that's where his like end of his ceiling is. Whereas like if he's, permanently banged up, maybe he's just a couple notches down. He's still going to be a top, 8 running back in the league for the next couple of years. If he's 26, he plays till he's 30 for another 4 years. You're probably going to be able to take advantage of the Christian McCaffrey manager, because he or she is sick of the last 2 seasons where he, really let you down. Especially people that a lot of people are going to have a sour taste in their mouth, because if you had an early pick 2 years in a row and you were like, let's go CMC, and then let's try it again, and then he let you down both times, that dynasty manager may have that same mindset and be like, just get this guy off my team, and they might be willing to, sell for probably lower than he's worth.
Yeah, I agree. He finished 3rd in yards from scrimmage per game, and that includes 3 games. He was on the field 30% of the time in 1 game because he got hurt. He was on the field 49% of the time because that was the first game that brought him back, and 36% of the time because he got hurt again. So he had played total. He played 4 healthy games and 3 hurt games. And he finished 3rd in yards from scrimmage per game.
Right.
I think his dynasty value is a little higher than some of the older running backs, because we've seen the receiving type backs, especially in any sort of PPR value. McCaffrey's amazing out of the backfield, so I think he's got that upside as well, because he doesn't have to be the bell cow throughout the rest of his entire career to still be fantasy football relevant. So I think he's got that going for him. I'm a Panthers fan, so I got that going for him too. No arguments here. I definitely like it, especially if you can buy low on a Christian McCaffrey owner who wants to get rid of him. Will or Jeff, anything to add to that?
Just worried about the mileage. He's got so much, and it's weird saying this, upside. You're talking about Christian McCaffrey, but it's just his floor. You don't know what it is now, because if he is getting into that territory where he's had too many hits, too many carries, his body is starting. Remember that, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when he put on all that weight? And people were like, damn, how's he going to, what if this is going to hurt him at all? Right. I'm wondering if now it's starting to, do something to him. That's the only thing. I'm just a little worried about it. And then, I'm sorry, Zach. I'm just a little nervous as well, is that he is with the Panthers. And it seems like if it's anybody that will mismanage CMC, it would be Matt Rule and the Panthers. So
probably
that's another thing. But
I
mean, you should be able to get him at a good deal, though. I think people are ready to unload him. So,
I think people are worried about the injuries. And as you said, people are worried that he's in Carolina. Even with Sam Darnold next season, I think Christian McCaffrey will be in for a good year, because Sam Darnold loved to check the ball down to Christian McCaffrey from everything we saw last season. So for me, I'm all in. I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey over a lot of guys. There's only a couple, maybe Najee, Jonathan Taylor, that I take above him. But I think that's probably where my list stops. Anything you want to add, Will? Or want to move on to your next player?
We can move on.
All right, Will, you're up. Your next player.
Okay, I'm going to go with Travis Etienne, if I'm saying his last name correct. Because I think forgotten about, there'll be other running backs that may look, like if I had Pollard on my roster, and I could trade Pollard for Etienne, I would. I think the people that draft him may feel like, I'm not sure. Jacksonville's a mess. Don't know who the coach is going to be. Even if they have a coach, we don't know what the organization's like. Might be a lot of buyer's remorse, but I just think he will have a good year next year, and he could probably run off a couple of good years, especially if Byron Leftwich goes over there. I think he could be an undervalued guy that nobody's paying attention to.
Yeah, the only thing that does scare me is Robinson is still there. And if you got like an IR spot or whatever, whoever drafted him is probably still attached to Travis Etienne because they drafted him. But I think he's got the upside, especially if the Jags move on from James Robinson, trade him away, and get some capital in return. Because if they have Etienne, they don't really need him. So I do like the pick if you can get him at a value. Just whatever you do, don't overpay. That's my only knock on Etienne is I think you might get into the whole, ooh, he's interesting, and then you start talking with whoever has him, and they have high asking price, and you're like, well, I want him. And, some people might overpay. So that's my cautionary tale. Zach or Jeff want to hop in on Travis Etienne?
No, it's a lot. I mean, I think Will is right. A lot of people have forgotten about him, but I gotta wait and see what is going on over there with the Jags. Again, who the head coach is gonna be, what they do with James Robinson. There's a lot that I gotta see before I touch anybody on that team, and I do mean anybody.
I think
other than James Robinson,
there's a lot of buy low candidates on that offense, just with the hope that things turn around. DJ Chark. I took over a dynasty team in Zach's dynasty league. DJ Chark's sitting there on my bench. I'm definitely stashing him because I think, with Trevor Lawrence, I think he's got an amazing upside once he gets back from the injury. If you're Laviska Shenault guy with the new head coaches might bring in, he might get more involved. So there's definitely some value to be had for some, possible, these guys could have a high ceiling if everything goes right for them this offseason. So
let me say this, and this will be kind of controversial. In excluding Shad Khan as the owner, if they get the right fit as a head coach, you could be looking at another Cincinnati with all the pieces that they have in Jacksonville.
Yeah, especially if they hit on this first pick, whether it's Evan Neal, the tackle from Alabama, or if they do something spicy or trade back or something, the team is definitely not like the defense is decent, right? And James Robinson is an undrafted free agent who's been fantasy relevant since he's been in the league. So whether it's him that's so good, which it probably is, or it's the system, Travis Etienne still is a first round. He's still a first round. Travis Etienne is still a first round talent. So obviously, just the people doing the books are going to be like, listen, you got to feed this guy the rock no matter what. So if he's healthy, even James Robinson's there, unless he's Superman Cam Akers. That Achilles injury is, with the exception of Cam Akers, is normally a pretty long recovery. So you might be able to get ETN pretty cheap. A lot of people forgot about him.
I mean, I think the key though is the coach hire, but they're $60 million under the cap. These guys are on their rookie deals. I mean, you could, you invest that in the O-line and you'd stack the defense, and you get an offensive minded coach. That team could turn around really quick before people know what happened.
You guys are putting a lot of faith in this Jacksonville Jaguars front office here. Talking about doing all the right things. We know for a fact they're going to do all the wrong things.
The Bengals, right? A couple of years ago, we all made fun of the Bengals. Oh my God, they never get right. The ownership is cheap. They don't keep anybody. Look what they did to Marvin Lewis and all this shit. And they're playing in the AFC Championship this weekend, and they are legitimate.
This is a different.
They're a legitimate shot at winning that game.
Yeah, and this is the first year they ever did anything in free agency, and look at what it got them. So it's a clear correlation if the front office can get their act together. That's why you see the same teams in the playoffs. It seems like every year, right?
Yeah, I think I like the proposition of Jacksonville Jaguars players. Once Shad Khan is gone,
yes.
Once Trent, however you want to say his last name, not sure exactly. Their GM is gone. Once that entire front office is rebuilt, You don't bring in Urban Meyer if you're thinking straight. You don't, bring in a coach and fire him after not even a season. If you're thinking straight, there's just the Bengals never did anything that stupid. The Bengals owners never been that controversial. So,
but
for me,
the Bengals don't have a swimming pool in their stadium. So
my bad. I forgot that's a big fantasy football relevance.
Cats don't like water.
Jeff, you have another player you want to bring up here for a trade for candidate?
There's a guy that I'm trying to sneak my way and get him.
Marquez Callaway.
No. I'm out on pretty much all Saints right now, unless they do a splash hire now as their head coach. But especially if a guy like Eric Bieniemy ends up becoming the coach of the Miami Dolphins, I would like to get my hands on Jalen Waddle. I think he can be somewhere in between a Tyreek Hill and a Deebo Samuel in the way that they're going to use this guy. A lot of in the backfield, a lot of dump offs, and I can see him parlaying and using that speed and beating guys downfield. The only reason I stayed away from him this season because I just didn't know what was going to happen with guys like Devontae Parker and things like that, and I didn't know what the chemistry was going to be like with Tua. But if they get the right guy over there, he's a guy that's going to get a lot of targets and be used a lot of different ways. So I'm going to try to sneak him and get him kind of cheap, and just hope that things fall into place. And I'd love to hear Zach's take on that.
Yeah, we'll let Zach go ahead. And then
well, you're definitely speaking my language, that's for sure. Get me all worked up talking about Jalen Waddle like that again. It's been a while since I've seen my Dolphins play. But yeah, no, he's. What else can you say? He's PPR gold, right? All those doesn't even need to really score to be, a top performing wide receiver for you. I think the connection with Tua is great for now. I think there's only up from here. If Deshaun Watson does somehow crazily make it to Miami, I think Jalen Waddle only increases his value. So either way, it's a win-win scenario, whether you stick with Tua or not. Super young, really good. He's a rookie record holder. So yeah, it'd be tough to probably not overtrade, in my opinion. I think you probably have to give away too much just because of the recency bias, like Zach said earlier. He did really help a lot of people, I think, towards the end of the season, early playoff time. So that might kind of not work in your favor. But yeah, he's great. He's the man.
Yeah, I agree.
One of my leagues, can you believe he was on the waiver wire week 5 and week 7?
Wow.
Could not believe it.
I have Jalen Waddle in my main dynasty league. So, I'm definitely high on him. I have a question for Jeff. How much do you love Jalen Waddle on your dynasty football team? Would you rather have DK Metcalf or Jalen Waddle?
Those are my issues. And as a homer, I got to keep my man DK.
Yeah, because currently they have Jalen Waddle ranked higher. I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros. But currently Jalen Waddle is ranked higher than DK Metcalf. I'm not quite sure the value is there to trade for Jalen Waddle because, as Zach said, recency bias. But, if, you're in a league with a fantasy owner that's not super into it, and, offseason comes, the Dolphins, outside of Deshaun Watson rumors, I don't think they're going to get talked about too much, especially Jalen Waddle and Tua. Don't really crave media attention. They're not really that kind of personality type players. So, maybe he slips under the radar. Some guys kind of forget, I had this guy on my bench. You throw, a nice trade offer, first round pick or whatever in there, and Jalen Waddle might be yours.
That's it. So. Some guys like those big old names that really aren't they're starting to be on the decline. Those are the guys I like to throw out there. So, you package something like with a Tyler Lockett or something and say, hey, they're kind of comparable, but Lockett's going to get the targets.
Let's move on to my next pick. This is a guy I traded for twice this offseason. I traded for in Zach's dynasty league that he led me into, and I traded for him in my main dynasty league that I've had for a while. I'm talking about Allen Robinson. Never had a good quarterback. He could get one. Wherever he goes, I can tell you, Matt Nagy will not be there, and I am extremely thankful for that. 4 years of his career, he's had over 150 targets. He is a top 10 wide receiver when he's healthy, and when Matt Nagy is not his head coach. He is 28, but at the wide receiver position, you could still get another 4 years of consistency from him. And as I said, he's a target hog. I'd rather have him over guys like Robert Woods, Mike Williams, Trace Claypool. I'd rather have him over Deontay Johnson in Dynasty. If you're trying to win now, I'd rather have him over Amon-Ra. Hunter Renfrew, I'd rather have him over Darnell Mooney. And then, as you said, Tyler Lockett, Marquise Brown. Those are some guys I would rather have over – I would rather have Allen Robinson over those guys.
Whoa.
I'm big on Allen Robinson.
Whoa.
I'm expecting a bounce back year from him, and I think that he will be smart about where he signs. He didn't want to be in Chicago last year, but he went from Jacksonville. He signed with Chicago to make the big bucks, and now he has realized that it's probably best to play with a good quarterback. So he will find himself in a position, I think, with a decent quarterback. He will be the wide receiver 1, most likely, on whatever team he goes to. He could be, the best wide receiver 2 in the NFL. There's a chance at that as well. I'm massive on Allen Robinson. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I could eat it, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm extremely high on Allen Robinson. And if you have an Allen Robinson fantasy football owner in your league, they definitely don't want Allen Robinson on their team anymore. So,
yep. Wow. Yeah. And because they're probably smart at fantasy football. So looking at it here at that same 150, it's looking like 137 is a 22 third round pick, and then right below it at 138 is Allen Robinson. So he just sneaks into the 150. But I guess that's every player. So I get what you're saying, Zach, because he's definitely one of those guys that the owner or the manager of the team is going to be like, yeah, I'm definitely willing to move Allen Robinson. So you might be able to grease him up for just maybe a little bit extra than what you probably could get Allen Robinson for. But I don't know. I'm looking at it here. This is 29 on this chart that I'm looking at. So
he'll be 29 by next season.
That's what it is by next season. Okay.
Yeah.
So
because you brought Christian McCaffrey. He's currently 25 as well. He'll be 26 by next season.
Got you. Yeah, so I guess it depends on where he goes, right?
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I tried to get him last offseason as well from the one guy, and he wouldn't budge. But this offseason, he came to me. He's like, "You still want Allen Robinson?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. Give me some Allen Robinson, please." But yeah,
what's a good landing spot?
Good landing spot for him would be Miami. He could be a wide receiver 2 in Miami. If Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, he could go to Green Bay on a 1-year deal. If Tom Brady comes back, go to Tampa on a 1-year deal. I think there's definitely some teams, depending on what happens with the Rams. If Odell doesn't re-sign there, he'd be a nice number 2 there. He could even go be the number 1 wide receiver, as I said, on team. Maybe he goes to the Patriots. He's the number 1 wide receiver on the Patriots. There's a lot of favorable landing spots for him. And I don't think he's going to cost too much coming back off that. I think he might sign, a 2 or 3 year deal, depending on where he's going. But I think he's going to be smart with it. I think he wants to win, which is going to put him with a good quarterback. So, Will, Jeff, you want to jump in on my whole – this is a guy I'm going to be bullish on all offseason, no matter where he goes.
I think for a lot of players, I think we have to remember, too, how disruptive COVID was to the cap. And how many guys lost money because of COVID. And now you're finally seeing the cap take nice jumps, 20 million a year, right? Probably for the next 3 years. So I wonder if someone like Allen Robinson, and I don't blame them. Like if you didn't really get the payday you wanted.
He got paid like $19 million last year because that's the second time they franchise tagged him.
Right. But you want that long-term deal, right? Like, and I think, because look, in the NFL, it's the long-term deal gives you the big bonus signing up front and the guarantee, usually in the second year of the contract. if I've been playing like under 1-year deals, I'm probably looking at a team. I might even be like, hey, I need a team that has a cap space to get me. So I don't think that's unfair. So I think it'll be interesting. I say that all the time. I think it'll be interesting for him. Would he take a 1-year deal, let's say, with the Rams for $8 million, prove it deal, or would he take Jacksonville and somebody with extreme cap space? And one of those teams is Jacksonville.
Miami.
I wouldn't go back. But would he take $20 million a year for 3 years? And so it'll be interesting to watch how it affects fantasy, because I think we might be surprised at some of the deals that players take, because this is the real first time that cap is jumping, and there's a lot of money. When you look at the cap space of the top 10 teams and how much money is available to be spent, there's a lot of money on the table. And some guys are going to make a lot of money this year.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, you want to jump in on Allen Robinson? Or you've kind of taken that whole, I want to wait and see what's happened role.
Yeah, I'm kind of skittish on him. I've always been one of those, he's always been one of those guys to where it's like, you see everybody's high on him, like, should they be?
Exactly.
For the last 2 years, it's kind of been like that. And then, the age thing starts. It depends on where he ends up. If he's, someplace like Arizona or something like that, where I think his route running could, I think AJ Green might be a little bit over the hill now. Maybe they look for somebody to bring in like Allen Robinson. He's just never been one of those guys that just grabs me, and it's just, then it's like, who would you rather have, like an Allen Robinson, or maybe go after Calvin Ridley? They're in that same category to me right now. And I'm looking at Calvin Ridley as being a little bit younger, that people are kind of sour on that he didn't pan out this year. Which guy would I rather go after? So you mentioned Green Bay. If A-Rod stays there, him and Devontae Adams, man, that could be a nice nice wide receiver.
They're $40 million over the cap, and there's no
that's
way
not happening.
if Aaron Rodgers comes back, though, they will push that all to next season with restructures of anyone. They'll sign extensions. They will make it work, because if Aaron Rodgers tells them he's coming back, they're going to go all out to try and win this year. But I would love to see him end up in Miami, to be honest. I think him and Waddle would be good.
A lot of guys in Miami.
Look,
there really isn't.
There are a lot of receivers in Miami.
There are. But look, I think a team like the Jets may overpay for him. If the Jets are like, hey, we need to get some more talent.
That's perfect. I feel like you can lock that up. Allen Robinson to the Jets. Yeah. That sounds so perfect.
Robinson's made $60 million over the past 4 years with the Bears. And I think he learned his lesson going to Chicago, where he's not going to do that again this year. I think he will go somewhere where he thinks he can win, somewhere with a quarterback, because he got screwed over with the whole Matt Nagy situation in Chicago, them franchise tagging him back years, not signing him to that contract extension he wanted.
Do you see how we all loop back these conversations to the hate of Matt Nagy? Everything comes back to Matt Nagy, ruining people's careers.
Yep, Matt Nagy. Well, that's the reason I think you buy low on him now, because no matter where he ends up, he's going to be in a better situation than he was last year. And you can get him for pretty much nothing. He is 28. He'll be 29 by the beginning of next year. That's still not super old for a wide receiver. We've seen wide receivers play a lot longer than that. And he's really talented. He just needs that quarterback to go with him. And you can get him for pretty much nothing. So, yeah. I think he'll be, depending on where he goes, once he finds his landing destination, I'll let you know how bullish I am on him next year.
Well, the one thing, let's just say real quick, the one thing he does have going for him, it depends on what the Packers do with Devontae Adams. If Devontae Adams is taken off the free agent market, and you look at who's left in free agency at wide receiver, there's not a lot out there, guys. I mean, it's Goodwin, okay, but hurt. It's Will Fuller. Well, that's a hit or miss, right? It's Jamison Crowder. It's T.Y. Hilton. It's
where's Michael Gallup? Where's Michael Gallup on this list you're looking at? Michael Gallup is probably number 3 outside of Allen Robinson. And
I think I'm looking at Sport Track, and they lifted by salary, their current salaries. But I mean, there's not a lot of Okay, Michael Gallup, but even Michael Gallup's not. Dude, no one's going to give him a big deal coming off that injury.
No.
Injury,
So
right?
especially so late in the season, right? I mean, it'd be one thing if he hurt himself at the start of the season, but he's a year. He might be 9-10 months away from playing. He may miss the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, I think he'll get a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
But Allen Robinson could go be the number 1 wide receiver in Philadelphia. He could go be the number 1 receiver in Baltimore, Cleveland. There's a ton of. He could go be the number 1 if he wants to go get paid. He could be the number 1 wide receiver in Detroit.
Be careful with
Here you talk about St. Raw like that.
That's no. Allen Robinson's a better wide receiver than Amon-Ra St. Brown, but we've talked about Allen Robinson for too long.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Zach's next player, who I also love because he is a future Carolina Panther. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, this is another guy. I mean, talk about the theme of we need to figure out where they go. I mean, this guy is the poster child for that, and that is Deshaun Watson, the current
future Carolina Panther.
Houston Texan, who most people don't really know, but he actually just sat out this whole last season. It wasn't on the commissioner's exempt list. He wasn't suspended. He wasn't hurt. He was just a healthy scratch every game, which is just insane. We really think about how poorly that organization is run, where they're just putting money in a stove, just burning it. But one of the pros already off the rip we just learned is recently that he won't be a Giant. The Giants just came out recently, said we will not be trading for Deshaun Watson. They're going to rally the troops around DJ. So you don't have to worry about him going to that, offense that's definitely not very fantasy friendly. In the last 3 seasons, he's a Pro Bowler. I think everybody is aware of how good Deshaun Watson is when he's actually playing football. He's still, super young. And I think the minute he steps on the field, he is he's easily a first-round pick in a dynasty startup draft. And if this is the time to get him right now, while things are still in limbo, while he's not going to jail. I've talked to a few people who know a little bit. It doesn't seem like there's any jail time pending here. This is a civil case. He will most likely end up dropping bags of money to these poor women or scheming women. I hope the truth comes out and justice is served, whichever direction it goes in. If people lied about these things, they deserve justice just as much as if Deshaun Watson actually did something. And depending on where he goes, could change his dynasty value instantly, right? The minute the report comes out that Adam Schefter says it's almost a done deal in Denver, that's it. The hype's going to be out of control. Look at all the wide receivers, Javonte Williams. It's everyone's just. He goes to Carolina. People are going to be like, I don't want him anymore. Panthers are terrible. So no, I think either way, where no matter where Deshaun Watson goes, there's no bad place for him. And if he goes to Miami, then cool. But you're really taking the chance. You're obviously taking the chance on a guy that may not play football. Whether he was sitting out to make the commissioner's life easier, so he wouldn't have to deal with that nonsense all year, so he wouldn't be punished as heavily this upcoming season. I honestly think that was like an undercover deal there, to be totally real. Because there's really no reason a player just sits like that. But he go ahead. Nah.
He just does not want to play for that ownership anymore. He will not suit up again for the Houston Texans, and that's the problem. If they had traded him, at the trade deadline, he would have played again. Then the commissioner would have to make the decision.
Right, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. So it's like, and he won't be on Houston. So you already know he's going to be in a better position because that wide receiver core is atrocious. Yeah. So you don't really want him on that team either. So
no, he can't be in a worse situation than where he is right now, unless some crazy happens and you see waves more women come up and criminal charges start flying, but the chances of that happening are pretty much zero. So I definitely agree. Will or Jeff want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, that's definitely one of those guys I would be waiting to see where he flies or where he falls to.
Mhm.
If he goes to Pittsburgh, I'm like very
Oh,
bullish
no.
on that team.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man.
That'd
There's
be
a
crazy.
lot of places I can see him. As soon as you put him in that equation, we're talking about playoffs. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's a great one.
If you're looking around, there's only a few teams where he wouldn't be an upgrade at quarterback.
Right.
A lot of teams aren't going to make the move just because they already have a guy, a younger guy or whatever. But there are some teams who need quarterback, as you said, Denver, Carolina, Miami, depending on what happens in Green Bay, Pittsburgh,
Colts.
the Colts.
Washington,
They won't. That trade will never
This is
happen just because
the
the
same division.
divisional thing.
Yeah.
But that'd be amazing. They'd be Super Bowl favorites.
If Russ keeps talking about it, he wants to leave.
Seattle.
And we can lock in.
That's a
That would be
lot
the
of
only
trades to
guy.
go right
Well,
for Seattle.
it's that's funny that you brought up Russell Wilson because I just acquired Deshaun Watson in that dynasty league we're in together. I traded away Russell Wilson. We basically swapped our first round picks because I was pick 8, he was pick 9. So I just moved back one spot. But I traded like 2 second round. I traded a lot to get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And really like the premise for Deshaun Watson in dynasty is for the guys that have really good teams. Like my team was stacked last year. I kind of got screwed in that week for fantasy last season. But if you got a good team and draft capital, you really should be just really
pretty
going
much.
after Deshaun Watson hard because he's Pat Mahomes put him in that conversation of quarterbacks when he's at his peak.
Yeah, as long as your team doesn't have Cordell Patterson on it, you're probably going to be competing next year. So, Deshaun Watson, he should definitely be on your team. Jeff, Will, do either of you guys have another player you want to bring up here?
I would just throw out Elijah Mitchell with the Niners because I think he's going to become the number 1 running back. I think Trey Sermon.
So, can we actually see a sustainable number 1 running back in San Francisco?
Well, I think he'll start.
My biggest fear with any San Francisco or New England running back.
Whoever starts, it's like the equation. Success equals San Fran starting running back, but you never know who it is, and the athletic training staff can't keep anybody healthy.
No.
So
I like the proposition. I love the proposition. I love the player. I don't love the team. I think you can get him cheap.
And I have him as my 4th running back who may carry me when I need it.
Yep.
That's a down roster move, right? It's not a top of the roster move. It's can I get him cheap right now and maybe hit big next season? And even if I think I'm only going to keep him for a year, I'll flip him as soon as he hits.
Yep.
Yeah. So looking at this, would you rather have a mid-second round pick in a 12-team league or Elijah Mitchell?
Elijah Mitchell.
So would I. They have Elijah Mitchell right now in this thing I'm looking at. You have Ronald Jones, Damian Harris, then Elijah Mitchell, Darrell Henderson, and A.J. Dillon. Sandwich in that 5 there.
Yeah, so he's in a group of guys that are in that range of like the potential's there. So it's it hasn't been fully established, but if you had Elijah Mitchell this past season, chances are he probably really helped you out with all the running back injuries that happened.
And speaking of running back, is there not a running back that maybe in fantasy that has the biggest spotlight on him this weekend is Cam Akers? Because it was a great story coming back, but those 2 fumbles, man, you start thinking, oh God, if this guy, it makes me wonder, like if he has a bad game this weekend, is there a chance for maybe people in the emotion of watching the game, like, let me maybe get out on him because I'm not even sure what they're going to do at running back next year. Are they going to keep Sonny Michel? Are they going to be Henderson? What are they going to do?
Yeah, that's an interesting team to watch there at the running back position. They showed full confidence keeping Cam Akers in the game after that fumble. Game on the line, we're running the ball. Luckily, he didn't cost them the game, but that was a lot of confidence placed in Cam Akers, and he let them down.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. If he actually has even just a decent game, it kind of shows me something for next week. Sean McVay is one of those guys where if you're his guy, he commits, overcommits to you. And that is a good thing if you do happen to have Cam Akers. It was one thing that made me look at, man, maybe I should, still a strong runner, still has the explosion. Had a couple of, bad fumbles at the worst time, but I'm like, when he's getting the ball, what is that, 3-yard line, 4-yard line? I'm like, this is where Sony Michel had excelled for you the week before. Why is he not in the game? And it just made me look at it. It's like, this is Sean McVay saying, this is my guy. This is who I'm rolling with. Because I was flabbergasted that Sony Michel wasn't in the game. I thought for sure that, okay, goal line, he's going to be getting the ball. He's, worked for him before. Yeah. So that just let me know right there, as far as Cam Akers, if he's even decent this weekend, that's who McVay's going to be rolling with next year.
Next year, yeah. And
but anyway, I don't want to talk about any other Rams or 49ers. Before I would like to just throw out there, I'm just butting in now, another guy that I'm looking to get pretty cheap, especially if he resigns with the Seahawks, is my man Rashad Penny.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Be the first-round guy that we all expected him to be. So if Russ stays, D-Case is okay and not saying I want to trade, think we're going to be all right.
I love Rashad Penny in Dynasty.
Rashad Penny could be a beast next year.
Yeah, even if they re-sign Chris Carson as well. Not super worried about that. I think Rashad Penny will be a good Dynasty football running back, even if he doesn't re-sign with the Seahawks. I think he'll be either a low-end running back 1 or like on a team, obviously. He'll be like probably that 16 range for running back. And then, he could be a really good second running back on a team if he goes to a high-powered offense. So I think you can get him.
Chris Carson. I'm going to be like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? You just like broken running backs.
Yeah.
They might.
The man's got a neck injury.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bring them both back.
Let him go.
I think they'll bring them both back, and then Penny will, obviously he's going to start the season. And I think they run him as a 1-2 punch, keeping Chris Carson, as you say, he's got that neck injury, so you can't play him too much. Run Rashad Penny into the ground.
This is what they need to do with Chris Carson. Send him to the 49ers, where he can go ahead and be with the running backs that get hurt every season. He'd fit perfectly in their rotation.
He would. He'd be great. Perfect. There you go. But that's all we've got for you guys tonight. Next week, we're going to be talking about players we are trying to trade away if they're on our Dynasty football rosters. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. If you play Dynasty football, I want to thank all 3 of you guys for joining. You can check Zach out on Instagram and Twitter at OceanStateFF. You can check me out, obviously, at Pro Football Craze on Instagram, and you can check Jeff and the Media app out. So you check them out on Instagram at Media MPC, and you can check out the app on the Google Play and App Store. But yeah, thanks guys for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed this Dynasty special. We'll have some more Dynasty content coming in the offseason. As I said, next week's going to be a Dynasty episode as well. So yeah, thanks guys. Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks, Zach.
Good night.
Thanks, man. Later, guys.